You always know you were talking to a Charlotte Mason mom when they start saying timetable. Hey, welcome back to The Commonplace. My name is Autumn Kern, and guess what? We are going to talk about timetables. It's that time of year. Everyone's planning. It's time to plan for the fall. People are ordering their time, thinking about how they can alternate work and rest, what's difficult, what's easy for their child during lessons, and they put it all in these little squares called a timetable. But if you are new to Mason, if you were just entering the classical world, timetable is a weird idea. It's a weird name, and it can tend to be off-putting when you don't know what something is, which is why I'm here to help bridge that gap. And so let's talk about timetables, which is a very fun English way of talking about a schedule. But there are some principles here. There are always principles here, aren't there? There's some principles, some philosophy stuff we need to cover, and then I'm going to head over into Common House, which is like a Patreon, but better, and actually walk through my timetable that is for this upcoming year. I actually have a couple of timetables in there for the early years, back when I was doing early year stuff, for first year with just one student, and now looking forward to having a co-op, which, if you don't know, I did a whole course on how to start a Charlotte Mason co-op, and I just got this from the printer. I don't even know if you can see it, but it's our co-op for the year curriculum guide, and it's beautiful and I love it, and I think you should take that course with us. So anyways, go ahead and click on all the links if you want to join Common House and get all the extra resources, templates, goods, and courses and classes. And if not, just learn about timetable today, and that's really what you need as you go to the school year. So a timetable, in its most foundational elements, is to serve you. I am always saying that you, your family, do not serve the timetable, it serves you. And so if you are constantly hitting against the timetable, not getting something done, taking too long, not taking enough time, whatever it is, the timetable can change. I consider a timetable a completely working document. You can always change it, you can always update, move things around. It is working. You don't want to change it all of the time, of course, because that can be confusing for you and your child, but I just want to make it clear that it's a working document. And it should be posted somewhere where everyone can see it because it holds you accountable. It also shows you that there is a proper time to do things, which is really important for busy moms who can have a lot of things going on in their heads, but also for the kids at the table. They need to learn that actually right now is the time that we do math. Later, you will have earned your free time, rightfully so, as a really positive natural consequence, and you may choose to go outside and play with the hose or whatever it is, but right now, we are going to be doing math. It also, if you have someone who really hates math, shows them that math does not last forever. So that's a helpful part of having the timetable posted. Helps you from dawdling, helps you know what proper time is for a thing, and also kind of keeps you on track so that you do finish well. Now, something that I think is really great about the timetable is that it can be really unique for your family. And so no matter what curriculum you've chosen, whether it be the Alviary, the CMEC, AO, kind of making your own thing, you should feel free to change it up depending on your family. So something unique about Mason is that she has a lot of books assigned in a school year, in a term, but she doesn't necessarily intend that you are going to read the full book. And so she has about an average between 6 and 10, 6 and 9, 6 and 8 chapters from a book in each term, but each term is only about 10 weeks long, maybe 11 if you need that extra week. And that means if you're just doing basic math, you know, that's not enough material to fill every block that I have. And there's a really good principle here. Number one, it's that children learn from books and things. Young children need to use things, feel things, engage with things, use their 5 senses. And so you have extra time in your formal timetable, like your formal school hours, not just free time in the afternoon, but your actual school time, to go outside, to go to the farm, to go make a thing in the kitchen, different things like that, because children need to engage with things in order to learn, and Mason knew that. And so she kept that option, she kept that in her coursework, and it also shows a mom that you may do things a little bit differently. I don't know why this is hard for us modern moms, our young moms, to really grasp that we can make decisions as the authority in our home about how we're going to do things. But I like this little kick from Mason when it comes to the timetable, because she is showing that you may split this chapter up in one of your blocks and then use the secondary block for all of your outdoor time. Or you might split it half a chapter here, half a chapter there. You have the ability to decide certain things like that. And I do think there is this fear when you start homeschooling, like, I've got to do it exactly like this mom did it, or exactly like my curriculum even says I have to do it. But when you actually get your philosophy in place and you understand what Mason is doing, then you have all of this freedom. Like, these are my tools, and I can use them in a way that works in our family, that works with our schedule, that works with my kids' personalities, that works with what they naturally enjoy versus what's a little bit harder for them. All of these things you have to consider as the teacher in the room, and you can then move forward without any fear, without worrying that it's not exactly like Autumn Kern on YouTube, whatever it is. And I think that's really helpful when you're planning your school year to know that. And one other helpful principle to consider when you're looking at your timetable kind of ordering things is that you may have a student who needs those harder subjects earlier in the day. I learned last year reading, one of the reading lesson blocks was positioned at the end of our timetable from our curriculum, which is the CMEC. They had it kind of down there, and 2 days in, I was like, that's not going to work. My daughter was Form 1B, first grade, first formal year, and she was just too mentally tired by the end of our lesson block to do reading then. So I just had to move it up. And now we always end, and I usually recommend for younger kids ending on certain things that are a little bit easier for them to do. So we always end on copywork or violin. Those just seem to be natural ways for us to end our school day. The mind is not too tired. The body is able to continue with its work while the mind kind of rests in those ways. And that is something that you may just have to look at and really think through your child. How can I alternate what is hard for them versus what is more easy or just like more of a delight for them? They may love tales and literature. And if logic, Spanish, and natural history are difficult for your child, you're not going to put them all in a row. You might spread them out on different days. You might alternate them with folk tales and literature, different things like that, so that your child is constantly coming refreshed to the next thing. Another tip, which I'm doing this year, is I'm putting our Swedish drill actually at the start of our day to kind of get those wiggles out. Another thing we do is pajama running club, where quite literally we wake up and in our pajamas we go for a run through the city, around the park, and back. It's very fun. We chant a lot of things like colonels don't quit, quitters don't get tea. I'm sure many a person before 7 a.m. has heard my children screaming that quitters don't get tea as they run down the block. But you know what? You got to get rid of the wiggles. So we're actually putting Swedish drill at the beginning of our timetable this year to kind of get those out before we settle in and start with our Bible stuff. So those are just a couple of principles behind timetable. Not a very long video. Once you get started, you'll kind of get the hang pretty quickly, but I am going to be walking through my actual timetable in Common House. So if you want to join us so you can see that and get the template, see the whole thing laid out, hopefully it'll be helpful for you, because sometimes when I look at timetables, they're very exact, they're very beautiful, but I can't figure out when that mom goes to get food for her family or like does the load of laundry. My timetable talks about that because I do need that kind of order and recognition. But before I go, on the way out here, I want to say that you will, and I think I said this last year when I talked about timetables too, you will never create a timetable that is so perfect that no one has to actually learn to be good in your house. That's not a possibility. T.S. Eliot talks about it. I talk about this poem. I talked about it a lot last year. I don't think it's come up so much this year. But he talks about men dreaming of systems so perfect that no one needs to be good. And I think there's that temptation to think that if we have the perfect timetable, if everything is organized and everything is exact, and we've thought about everything that could happen, then we will have a perfectly smooth running homeschool year. And maybe some of you have been homeschooling for a couple years know that's a unicorn, it doesn't exist. But those of us who are new or newish have to realize that you cannot systematize education. I know the world has told you that you can, but you can't actually. Your child is not a machine. They're not a computer to be programmed. They're not a bucket to be filled. They're not just on a conveyor belt, one after the other, in a uniform factory model. Your child is a person made in the image of God, indivisibly mind, body, and spirit. And so when you are engaging with them and engaging with ideas, things are going to happen. And Mason would say that dealing with character issues, training obedience and attention, truthfulness, things like that are actually going to trump your academic studies. And so there may be times when you have to pause the timetable to actually help your child learn to choose what is good. And if that is the only thing you take from this video and all of your planning, I think you and I will both be much better served this year. So happy planning and good luck.